and let's get started. We're still a bit here in some of the history and what is happening historically with what's going on. And so we want to talk through some of the stuff in the Roman circumstance and in the Roman world, and make sure that we're set up to understand how this stuff is going to play itself into some of these gospel narratives and understandings, and then we can kind of go from there. Okay? Good? Questions, concerns? Okay. So let us set this up so people can see what I'm doing here. So let's start with this. Let's just do some basic Roman power structure. Okay. We've got a series of individuals by titles that we need to talk ourselves through to help kind of understand how this is going to work. And that matters for what's happening with life in Jerusalem, okay, and in Judea. And so we'll set this up and then we can carry on from there. So obviously at the top of your pile is the emperor. And then the Senate and generals. We can put a little asterisk next to generals because there's not always generals to be had in the Roman world. Sometimes with certain emperors, all you have is the emperor and a series of individuals who command certain legions. Okay, we call them legati. We'll talk through them in a second. But you may not always have generals. In the case that you do, however, they're the next layer down on the pyramid. Okay. So the emperor, the Senate, and some generals, and then individuals we call legati, Legatii, because it's Latin and Latin does weird things. And politically, then regional governors. Right? So emperor at the top, Senate and generals, legati. We'll explain what they are here in a second. Regional governors. And then at the bottom, a group called ethnarch. Okay, these would be individuals responsible for certain people groups. Okay. Ethnic leaders or ethnic rulers. So people like the Herods, who are king of Judea or king of the Jews, quote unquote, right? Or the high priests or something like that might be an ethnarch, depending on the time frame that we're talking through. They're part of that people group, but they're also responsible for the governance of that people group within the Roman structure and the way the Roman system works. So somebody like the Herods would fit into this category. So the tetrarch is a kind of ethnarch, right? Okay. And then on that line, as far as the Romans are concerned, the people groups themselves. Okay. Good? Okay. Now, here's how this works. In the Roman world, power goes up as you climb the ladder. But population flow goes this way. Does that make sense? Less people at the top, more people at the bottom. Because that's how any power structure works. Yeah? Part of the reason why Jesus' kingdom teaching, part of the reason why some of the things Jesus has to say about the kingdom of heaven, why that doesn't make any sense is because this stuff is flipped over. Right? Are you with me? It's God and the people at the bottom, and it funnels its way. But anyway, we'll talk through the flip of this kind of kingdom structure when we do Jesus in the Gospels and we talk through what's going on, especially the Sermon on the Mount material. So this is basically Roman power structures. Now there's a couple of individuals here, right, that have some military function. And so here's the reality. The military fits into this. The Roman military does, but more by means of enforcing the way that the Roman world ought to operate, as opposed to having to squeeze it into the power structures someplace, right? And primarily through this individual and this individual, we get the fit. The problem is that the way the Roman military is going to go ahead and go about maintaining Roman order and Roman peace is what's going to create most of the issues and the tensions in Roman Jewish conflicts. Make sense? So here's what we are going to do. We're going to trace out Roman military structure for a second and put some numbers on some things, and then hopefully have some time to take a look at a passage that highlights a context piece where the numbers make some sense out of the world for us. Is that helpful? Okay, so Roman military. Now, this okay. We're going to start at the bottom of the pile and work our way to the top. And along the way, make sure that we have numerical values that go with each of these breakdowns. Okay. Yes, you're going to need to know this stuff. Just saying. Ready? Okay. So at the bottom, is what's called a tent party. It's a group of soldiers that share a tent, a mule, and a kettle with a set of millstones. So basically, it's a group of guys that are going to live together in a tent, and they have a mule to carry supplies, a kettle to make food, and millstones to grind grain, so they can make things like oatmeal or a basic version of what we would eat as like grits or cream of wheat, and make bread. Okay. This tent party consists of 8 soldiers. The next layer is what's called a centuria. Okay. Composed of 10 tents. Typically, those tents are 8, but eventually in the Roman world, they're going to become 10. And then 10 tens gives you century, 100. Is making sense? Okay. So 8 men to a tent, 10 tents make a centuria. And this is commanded by a centurion. Okay. Do it this way. Okay. So tent party is 8. Centuria is 10 tenths. Next is a cohort. Which is 6 centuria. Okay. Good with me so far. So when we're putting this together, you're going to break your troops down into groups of 8, take those, divide them out into tenths. Those tenths, 10 of them make a centuria, 6 of those centuria make a cohort. But if you're putting together an army, there's going to be multiple cohorts, right? Okay. The first cohort, I can spell, not really, but I can, is always double strength as we put this together, which means that the first cohort consists of 6 double centuria. Okay? You with me on that? Yeah? So the first cohort is always double. One, it's basically 2. You take one of them, and that's fighting soldiers, and then the other half of it is logistics. Right? Engineers and cartographers, people to make maps and line it all out, right? Interpreters and whatever else. Okay? Is that good? Okay. Next is the legion, which is made of 10 cohorts. Good? All right. You ready for some math? That was definitive. Okay. Here's how this works. How many guys to a tent? Okay, good. How many tenths to a centuria? Okay, so how many guys? Okay. How many centuria to a cohort? 6 of them. So how many guys? But the first cohort is always double strength. So there's always going to be another, like, yes, this is standard, but we're going to have another group of that added in later on. You with me so far? Okay. How many? That 8 looked terrible. So 4,800, right? But we just said the first cohort is always double, so we need to add 5,280. Right? The only thing not counted is cavalry. There is Roman cavalry. It's not as prominent, but there is Roman cavalry. So now we need to add the Roman cavalry to this, which is always somewhere around 120 cavalry for every legion at a minimum, unless it's a designated cavalry legion, and then it looks totally different. Good so far? So how many are we talking about? Right. That's the number for a Roman legion, 5,400 individual troops. Okay. I already started to do some of this, but I want to go ahead and make this clear. So centuria is commanded by a. So when you meet a centurion in the Gospels, They're in command of themselves and 79 others. Yes, he does. Right? It's Luke 7. Yeah, he has somebody who's sick, and he praises the centurion's faith. I've not seen faith like this in all Israel. I want you to think about that for a second. Jesus just said that the Roman has demonstrated better faith than any of the Jews he's ever come across. And this guy happens to be in command of part of a Roman legion, which is not necessarily being neighborly to the Jews. That's a huge statement for Jesus to make. Okay. The legion is commanded by a legatus, singular. Legatai is plural. This is more than one. This is just one. Because Latin. Right? So legatus, just one, in command of a legion. Legatai, multiples in command of multiple legions. Because you only have one for each legion. Sir.
The cohorts, like, then were 6 centurions also in command of the cohort?
No. Tribune. Okay. Good with me here? Okay. If the Roman legion is responsible for a particular region, like Palestine, for example. Remember I said Julius left a Roman legion in Palestine to keep order and peace with the Jews? If that is the case, then this legatus also doubles as a regional governor. Does that make sense? So let me explain it this way. Every Roman governor is a legatus. They have a legion at their disposal for their governorship. But not every legatus is a governor. Does that make sense? It's like thumbs and fingers. All thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. Right? Every governor is a legatus, but not every legatus is a governor. Okay? Now, after legions, then you end up with armies. And generals lead armies. Armies are not standardized in size. It depends on the region that army is deployed to. Does that make sense? So the West doesn't need as many as, let's say, the East does, because the East has got more people in it in the ancient world. And so there's a bigger concern with what's happening in the East. Questions at this point? Okay, go ahead. Yep, army's the biggest. Doesn't operate that way. There's not a group of them together. It's each army is a separate thing, right? All of them are commanded by the emperor or by the Caesar. And so at any point in time, the emperor can give an order to a specific commander of a legion or a specific governor in command of that legion and bypass a general if he wishes, or he can go through the general. Depends on if there's a presence of a general or if he wants to deal with that. But the Caesar has at his disposal every single legion at any given time. Make sense? Yes.
So a centurion is kind of like a company, and a cohort is like a centurion is like a platoon, and a cohort is like a company.
Yeah, we can make. Yeah, right. Like squad, company, platoon, or however you want to break down, because Navy breaks down differently than Army. So insert your structure, right? We would go fire team, squad, company, brigade. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, those are really big structures. There's finer tuned stuff in there, right? But yeah. Is this making sense to you? Okay. And actually, companies in the Navy are small. We're talking like 20 or 30. Yeah, right. It also depends on the breakdowns. So Navy things are going to be smaller because we operate in small spaces. Okay, here's why this matters for us as we go forward. This gives us some context for certain passages in the scripture. Okay, open up to the Gospel of Mark for me. Let's go to Mark. We want to be early in the text of the Gospel of Mark. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Well, I thought I had it, but now I have to find it. Ah, yes. Okay. Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. Beginning in verse 1. Would somebody read for us? Mark 5. Okay, go ahead.
They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of
The Gerasenes or the Gadarenes.
Gerasa.
It's a Gentile country.
Of the Gerasa. And when Jesus had stepped on the boat, immediately there met him out of the tomb a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could find him, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains. So he rent the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him.
Okay, so basically they chained this guy up because if they didn't, he would terrorize the village. Like literally, right? So it's demon possessed. He lives out among the tombs because they're trying to keep him secluded and away from the town. And they would chain him and shackle him. But in all of this wondrous possessedness, yes, that was sarcasm, he'd break the chains apart and then terrorize the village. So then they take him back out. How? I'm not entirely sure. Chain him back up and like start the process over again. Carry on.
Night and day among the tombs, one of them, on and up, was always crying out, but they could choke. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down.
Okay, so he runs and he falls down before Jesus. I want you to get the picture here. This guy that nobody can subdue, who's literally been terrorizing the village and living amongst the tombs, now sees Jesus get off the boat and comes running to him at the beach and just falls on his face before him. Keep in mind that part of what's happening here in this story is about power and authority. Keep going.
When he saw Jesus come up and crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you done to me? What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For who was saying, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many."
Okay, we'll stop there. So Jesus has stepped out of the boat. The man has come to him and fell down before him. Jesus has said to come out of the man. He's given a command to this unclean spirit, right? And then the unclean spirit through the man starts begging and pleading for Jesus not to torment him, right? So then Jesus follows up with a question. What is your name? And the response is what? My name is Legion, because we are, how many? Listen, this is the immediate context. This is the number associated with a Roman legion. Jesus has said, what is your name? My name is Legion, for we are many. It's the deal. It's not actually his name. This is the demon talking. Right? The man has assumed this name because apparently there's a problem here. I want you to consider this. If this is a literal thing, we are to take seriously the fact that he's using the name and the word legion with some sort of historic measure of accuracy. And we're talking about 5,400 demons. Put your thinking cap on for a second. Now I want you to remember the position these demons have taken with Jesus. They come running and falling down before him, and they beg and plead with him to not be tormented. Who's in control of this entire encounter? Yeah, absolutely. Is Jesus stressed by any of this? No. He's just cool, calm, and collected. Come out of the man. What is your name? He's just having a conversation. They, on the other hand, are freaking out.
Wait, so there were 5,400 demons that invaded?
That's what it seems like. This also makes sense why they can't keep him chained and he terrorizes the village all the time. Yeah? Think about it. These are the kinds of things that I need the scripture to take new life with you so that you think about what you're reading. My name is Legion, for we are many. Jesus agrees not to torment them and to send them into a group of pigs. Those pigs then go careening down the hillside into a river and they all die. But we're told there's at least 2,000 pigs present. So I want you to understand something. That means that we're either looking at, again, multiple demons per living creature at this point, multiple per pig, or you're still looking at a minimum of 2,000. I want you to have an understanding here. The man's answer of, my name is Legion, for we are many, has two possible numbers attached to it. One, 2,000, because that's about the number of pigs. Yeah? Or 5,400. Either way you slice it, there's too many demons and not enough human to go around. And either way you cut that, Jesus is still just chilling and having a conversation with this guy who's been terrorizing the village to such an extent they have to keep him chained. And he still happens to break free on occasion and terrorize the village. When we talk about power, when we talk about authority, this is the kind of stuff that alters the frame of reference in the Gospels. It's not that Jesus shows up and he's casting out demons. It's not that Jesus shows up and there's some miraculous, it's the fact that it's nothing. This doesn't stress Jesus out. You actually get very little from Jesus and you get a lot of stress from the guy. I want you to understand that. Because on a practical level, it should help us as we read through the gospel texts. On a personal level, I want you to think about this. If without batting an eye, Jesus just cool, calm, and collected deals with this particular demoniac, nicknamed the Gadarene or the Gerasene demoniac, and his legion of demons, and Jesus just cool, calm, and collected as ever handles it with no problem whatsoever, then perhaps we need to rethink the stressors in our own lives in light of some power and authority that Jesus might actually possess. Just saying. But you see, we don't go there with the level of these texts unless we let the history give us the context that we need. Okay? Questions or concerns here? Yeah.
If the demons didn't all go to the pigs, does that mean that there would still be 3,400?
No, that's the thing. All of the demons leave the guy and go into the pigs. So we're talking either like the guy, there's multiple in one person, there's multiple demons in each pig, or legion is a exaggerated name, and there's a number of demons to match the number of pigs. But the point is that all of them leave the guy, because the next time we see the guy, he's just sitting there listening to Jesus, cool, calm, everything's right with the world again. And Jesus sends him back to be with his family and his loved ones.
Do we know if the pigs belong anywhere, or there's just like 2,000 random?
No, they belong to a group of Gentile pig farmers. And Jesus has sent these demons into these pigs, and the pigs have gone careening down into the river and died. And then this group of farmers comes out and basically tells Jesus, you have to leave now.
I mean, like, you did kind of go like.
He just destroyed their livelihood. That's not to say that Jesus can't fix that, but this is the reason why that group of individuals in this area of town are like, okay, you have to leave. Go away now.
And I don't really blame them. I would've done the same thing.
So, okay, good.